This is every Brian Griffin relationship in Family Guy. Starting with Seabreeze in Season 3, Episode 13, one of the few animals he showed affection to, weirdly enough. Okay, so trying to mingle with his own species for a change, Brian decides to visit a local dog park. There's always a weird divide where I forget Brian's dog sometimes, and I think other people do too.
You know, we sit here and force small talk while they have the time of their lives.
Yeah.
Brian calls the dog over with a treat and says hi the way dogs do, by stuffing their nose in the other's butt. But if you're gonna walk and talk like a human, maybe you should greet dogs like a human too?
Sorry, I thought I smelled cookies.
Later on, when Lois asks Peter to fix the bathroom faucet, they catch Brian, how do I put this, doing some light reading.
Was he just masturbating?
Yes.
Oh my.
The next day, Brian and Lois awkwardly run into each other, and I have no clue how you have a conversation with someone after that. I'd have left the country by now.
I should be able to control my baser instincts, but lately I've just been having these urges.
So Lois invites him up to her parents' place to unwind for the weekend, which he at first declines, but after seeing what's on TV, yeah, maybe it's time to get away.
We now return to World's Funniest Dogs on Fox.
While strolling the greens, Brian comes across Carter and his prize-winning dog, Seabreeze.
I mean, look at these legs and that beautiful coat. And feel the heat coming off of her genitalia.
Man, dog dating is weird. I much prefer human dating, mixed messages, awkward first dates, and finding out the person you're dating is a serial killer. It all happens to us at least once. Carter enters Seabreeze into a race with a lot of money on the line, but when Brian witnesses her in all her glory, his animalistic urges take over and he rushes the track. But by the grace of the cameraman, we don't get to see that.
He's violating Seabreeze.
No, he's just awkwardly positioning himself. Now he's violating Seabreeze.
Well, hopefully they were using doggy protection.
Seabreeze will be able to race again, but unfortunately not for another 9 weeks. She's pregnant.
Furious, Carter tells Brian he'll never see Seabreeze again, sending the whole family away. Peter tries to help by going back in time, which just involves spinning around in circles.
Oh boy. Okay.
Sorry, Peter, you still have a few more seasons before time travel's on the table. Before they can leave, Carter's informed that Brian and Seabreeze are nowhere to be found. Lovers on the run? How romantic! So Brian and Seabreeze go into hiding while Lois meets with him in secret at the park to let him know the family misses him. Well, some of them.
And Peter talks about you all the time.
Oh, really? Anything nice?
No.
But the dogs don't stay hidden for long as SWAT teams swarm a motel, finding Brian and Seabreeze hiding in the closet. With his face now plastered all over the news and unable to see the dog carrying his puppies, Brian won't take this sitting down like a good boy.
I'm gonna sue your dad for custody.
Don't worry about what Peter's doing, it's not important. During the trial, Brian's ability to be a father is called into question when they bring up an incident he had with a baby at a Denny's.
You like that? Huh? You like that? Wah!
Good job putting that child in its place, Bri. But despite being coaxed by Carter, Peter does the right thing and fights in defense of Brian, saying he'll be a great father to the puppies. The judge is swayed, but makes a pretty harsh requirement.
I grant Brian custody with the condition that he be neutered first. Yeah!
I don't think Peter knows what neutered means. On the day of the procedure, Brian is ready to go through with it so he can be the right father for his puppies. Before he can go under the knife, Lois bursts into the room and tells Brian to come quickly.
Those aren't my puppies.
Well, and who's that?
That's disturbing, but anything must be possible if Brian can have a human son. And one of those possibilities is Brian falling for an aging former singer named Pearl Burton in Season 3, Episode 17, who he offered to care for before her death. So we kick things off not with Pearl, but with a young woman named Tina, who Brian is out on a date with. Yet he quickly finds out they have nothing in common.
You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
Well, sure I do. Opera's chin.
When he returns home, Lois questions Brian on whether he's setting his standards too high, but Brian would rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't get him. He doesn't commit to that idea for too long, as you'll see in upcoming sections. Brian gets caught up in his feels during a laser rock show, which causes him to drown his sorrows in alcohol. See, the issue with that is he's the one driving home.
Me and the boys were just,
Whoa, you're off the meter, Brian. You're under arrest.
Saddled with a DUI, Brian is sentenced to 100 hours of community service, specifically tending to an old woman who hasn't left her house in 30 years. I think I'd rather have prison time. Brian arrives at Pearl's house, who greets him with a welcoming blast of powder to the face.
what the hell is this?
Delousing powder. Everyone on the outside is filthy.
Her demands are multiple and strict, but this beats prison, right? Although in there you don't get covered in burning powder. When Pearl fakes an injury to test out Brian's reflexes, he blows up on her. Yeah, I stand by my earlier statement. Jail time would be leagues better than this torture.
Why don't you do the world a big favor and drop dead?
While at home, Brian catches a show covering the mystery behind Pearl Burton, a once famous jingle singer who left the limelight after a transition to an opera singer wasn't well received.
No one has seen Pearl Burton since that fateful night over 30 years ago. She's presumed dead.
Well, she isn't, but might be soon. Brian rushes back to her house to find her in not the healthiest of situations.
Pearl!
He just barely manages to stop her and tries to talk her down by complimenting her singing, specifically her opera.
I heard you sing Habanera. You were sublime.
No one has ever spoken positively about that to her. Maybe there's something between them after all.
I'll see you tomorrow.
But you're not scheduled tomorrow.
I know.
Pearl sings for Brian the next day, which moves him to ask her to go out to dinner with him.
I haven't left this house in such a long time. I'm afraid.
But Brian tries to quell her worries of the song detailing all the ways the world has changed in the past few decades. Seth will take any chance to show off that voice, won't he?
So hurry, 'cause you've got a lot to see.
Fully convinced, Pearl is ready to go out and see all the world has to offer.
I wouldn't be standing here right now if it wasn't for you.
I guess car accidents were top of the list to see. Too soon? Although she's now literally dying, Pearl thanks Brian for finally bringing her out of her shell.
I only wish we could have a little more time together.
We can.
So Brian uses virtual reality to show her the life they maybe could have lived once upon a time. Wow, on my Oculus all I can do is play Beat Saber. In one of his few unselfish moments, Brian managed to actually bring a woman happiness. Wonder why he didn't keep it up? Well, I guess it's not hard to see why he gives up on love, especially after Brian fell for a girl named Brooke on The Bachelorette in Season 4's Episode 7. So when Cleveland's wife Loretta leaves him, Peter tries to up his confidence by getting him on the show The Bachelorette.
Peter, I can't do this. I'm too nervous. I gotta go.
No, Cleveland, I'm not gonna let you do this.
Luckily, he has a friend like Peter willing to tie him down against his will so he can't leave. But you know what usually calms someone down? Ripping off all their clothes.
Peter, what's wrong with you? I'm naked.
Oh, God, you're self-conscious. I'm sorry. You know what? Look, Cleveland, look.
Now that's a true friend. He won't let you go to jail for public indecency alone.
Oh my God!
Hi, we're here for the interview.
Brian apologizes to the casting agents, and I don't know if it's his words or maybe that they need to fill their dog hiring quota, but they seem to take a liking to him.
Congratulations, Brian. You're gonna be on The Bachelorette.
Oh sure, Brian gets to be on TV, but when I bring a few naked guys with me, suddenly I'm a threat to public safety. Anyway, despite thinking reality TV is stupid, Brian is still eager to take advantage of the perks.
But I figure I got a few days of free booze and free food before they kick me off. I could use a vacation.
Oh yeah, no one is more deserving of some time off than a house dog who doesn't work. Rest up, buddy, you've earned it. Despite not really trying, Brian still manages to make it past the first round.
Brian. What? Are you serious?
Yeah, having a beautiful woman wanting to hang out with you is so lame, right? I'm always having to turn them away because I don't have the time. So Brian continues to not try, but in doing so actually learns Brooke isn't crazy about the show either.
I just can't take it anymore. All these guys just coming on to me. Ugh, I had to sneak off.
The two start to bond a bit over jazz music and whatnot. Could Brian actually be falling for this woman? Come on, I've yet to see him turn down a blonde.
I guess you can't judge a Brooke by her cover. You can cut that out, right?
Oh, we can, but we won't. Brian manages to make it to the final three, but has he made enough of an impression to make it?
Brian.
Yes!
Maybe you really can find love on TV. After all, reality TV is 100% authentic and not staged, right?
I'm in love. That's it. I'm in love.
But like any relationship, you gotta meet the family. If only Brian's wasn't so, well, whatever word you think of is probably right.
I can't wait to meet your family.
Yeah, me too. They're pretty great.
I think what Brian meant to say was they're pretty great at being the worst.
Hey, how was the Bachelorette? Was she a dumb bimbo like you said, but with a big rack?
And they couldn't have picked a worse time to do this because Chris is in the middle of having his pimple telling him to do bad things. Yeah, don't ask.
There, are you happy, Doug?
Oh yeah, his pimple's name is Doug. Like I said, don't ask. But despite all of that, Brooke still seems to really like Brian. Okay, she can't be that smart. That dinner would have been a clear sign to leave and never step foot in Quahog again. And yet, she chooses Brian.
I love you, Brooke.
I love you too, Brian.
How sweet. It's like a fantasy come to life.
That's a wrap.
Well, it was great working with you, Brian. Good luck.
And just like fantasies, reality TV, and most job postings on Indeed, it's all just one big sham.
What about us?
Oh, stop it. It's just TV.
But that doesn't stop Brian, who tries to get in contact with Brooke by phone.
Let me give you my home number again, just in case you lost it.
Voicemail is full.
Damn.
So Brian chooses not to take the hint and buys Brooke a new answering machine. God, remember those? Yeah, no, me neither.
Listen, Brian, I want you to leave me alone or I am calling the cops.
Well, she warned him.
Brooke, I'm so in love with you.
And like the phone, it's about time Brian hangs up on this relationship. But he bounced back quickly when he caught the eye of Shauna Parks in Season 4, Episode 11 while advocating for the local school to be renamed. So while attending a PTA meeting, Brian strikes up a conversation with the history teacher, Miss Parks.
Oh, like Rosa Parks. Or someone white named Parks.
Yeah, good save there, Brian. Even though he sounds like this is the first black person he's ever talked to, she still takes a liking to him.
I'm Brian, and, gosh, if I'm not being too forward, it's lovely to meet you, Miss Parks.
You hear that heavenly choir in the background? It only takes a few seconds for Brian to fall in love yet again. So the two give a date a try, which gives Brian the room to lie about helping orphans. I'm not sure this dog has had one genuine conversation about himself.
What's it like to work at a high school?
Oh, Brian, I just love it. Working at James Woods High is great.
Brian has to wonder why the school is named after a problematic actor, suggesting it should be named after a prominent black figure. You're not slick, Brian. I see what you're doing.
Brian, that's a great idea. We should get them to rename the school after Dr. King.
You've got her, Brian. Now stop talking.
I'm not okay with slavery, just so we're clear. I mean, if I was offered a slave, I'd say no.
What a brave stance for you to take, Brian. Brian's proposal manages to sway the school board, but someone has something to say about that.
I've got an objection, and so does this man. James Woods.
It turns out Woods is actually in favor of renaming the school. How honorable of him. He should be rewarded by having a school named after him.
James Woods High School, it remains.
Shauna is obviously mad and gets even madder when she finds out Brian is still hanging out with Peter.
You're not still friends with that idiot after what he did.
I mean, Peter does own him, but not like a slave, which as we learned before, Brian is bravely opposed to.
Peter is a jerk, and as far as I'm concerned, it's either him or me.
But Brian's a good dog and can't turn his back on Peter, so she leaves. It is a bit surprising to see Brian put his friend over a woman, but he can be quite loyal at times. But not when it comes to Lois, as Brian will try to win her over any chance he gets, like when he married Lois after Peter was presumed dead in Season 4, Episode 12. So yeah, while out fishing, Peter and the guys end up getting shipwrecked during a storm, surviving on a life raft of blow-up dolls and a diet of Joe's legs. Oh, relax, he can't even feel them. Luckily, they don't stay stranded for long as a cruise ship spots the island they washed up on.
Boy, I'm sure glad nobody's here to see this.
Remember, boys, what happens on the island stays on the island. So Peter returns home to an overjoyed family, though he quickly learns that some things have changed.
I'm not quite sure how to tell you this, but I got remarried.
What?
I mean, can you blame her? Peter was gone for months and was presumed dead. I'd probably marry my dog too. Forget I said that.
Honey, I'm home. Peter, you're alive.
Like I said, it's hard to blame her, especially because it seems like life has been good with Brian in the role of husband and dad. Not gonna say he's better than Peter, but he's better than Peter.
Fine, I can see I'm not wanted here. Maybe I'll just find my own place.
Brian and Lois do seem to have a happy marriage, even if they haven't taken it all the way.
Any possibility of tonight being the night we finally push the beds together?
Good night, Brian.
All of the responsibilities of marriage with none of the rewards? How are you gonna do a dog like that?
He's enough with that already. You're like a dog with a bone.
Tell me about it.
But Peter still wants to win Lois back, and who can say no to all of that?
Do you have a magnet in your head?
What?
You must, because it's attracting my buns of steel.
Unable to deny Peter's peak physical form, Lois gives in to her desires.
Oh, who am I kidding? I can't fight this anymore.
Brian has a sneaking suspicion of what's going on, so he tries to call the house, but Peter and Lois are too busy. I don't know what they're doing. Is it roleplay, a weird fetish thing? I'd rather not think about it too hard. Suspicions continue to rise as Lois goes to leave for her gardening club.
It's 10:30 at night, and you have a saddle.
Yeah, but Brian, have you considered this?
What's this? What's this, Brian, huh? What's this, huh?
It's a ball.
Well, Lois brings up some good points, though Stewie can see what's going on.
I say, are you blind or just stupid?
What do you mean?
It's a pretty simple question, Brian. You're not helping in beating the stupid allegations. Anyway, Stewie finally reveals what Peter and Lois have been up to.
All right, here it is.
Oh, Peter.
But Brian isn't gonna let this stand. He finds the motel the two are at, but ends up eavesdropping on their conversation. It's rude to eavesdrop, Brian, even if your wife is cheating on you.
I can't keep sneaking around with you like this. It's not fair to Brian.
Lois reveals she still loves Peter but made a commitment to Brian and she intends to keep it. A little late for that, isn't it? I mean, you were riding Peter like a horse. But Brian takes the high road and decides to end their relationship for Peter's sake.
I just don't think you're the right woman for me.
Oh, bitch, you got jacked, bitch.
So the two decide to just stay friends. A shame too, because Brian was this close to making something happen.
And to think, Brian, I was like a day away from having sex with you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lois. I wouldn't doubt if this is the reason Brian has that gun in his lockbox. This isn't the last time Brian tries to make a move on Lois, as he tries it once again and played again Brian.
I can't help myself, Lois. I know you're married to Peter, but I love you and I can't stand it anymore.
How they managed to continue to live together after that is beyond me. Lois is everything Brian could want, but his friendship with Peter will never allow it. Chin up, Brian. There's plenty more beautiful, intelligent women out there. But maybe intelligent isn't what Brian wants, as evidenced by him dating Jillian, his longest-running relationship, that started in Season 5, Episode 5. So we kick things off with Brian blowing off Stewie because he had a late night.
Late night, huh? What's her name, Brian?
What are you talking about?
Everybody knows when someone says they had a late night, they were either getting nasty with someone or gaming with the homies, and Brian doesn't look like an avid Fortnite enjoyer.
I think it's wonderful you found a young lady willing to stoop to your level.
When do I get to meet her?
But Brian doesn't want that to happen. Now, why could that be? Clearly there's only one reason.
U-G-L-Y, she ain't got no alibi, she ugly.
Screw off.
Probably wanting to quell those thoughts, Brian decides to let Stewie meet her, but only briefly.
If she's as ugly as I think she is, I'll look at her once and then I'll go, bleh, bleh.
But as it turns out, she's quite the opposite.
Oh my. Hello, Stewie. Charmed.
I'm Jillian.
Can she understand him? It makes sense, because as we find out, she may just have the brain of a child too.
I was watching something on TV about this guy named Hitler. Somebody should stop him.
Yeah, Stewie's next question is totally valid.
Are her parents brother and sister?
And that's putting it nicely. Real ones remember what he actually says in the uncensored version. Of course, Stewie's not gonna let Brian live down dating a dumb girl.
Think what you want, but you don't see the side of Jillian that I do.
Is that side by chance the one where she isn't wearing any clothes, Brian?
What specifically do you talk about?
A lot of things. Food.
Sounds like a riveting conversation only an intellectual like Brian could offer. Later, when Brian returns home, he finds Jillian in the living room with his family. Apparently, he invited her over for dinner. But you know, when two characters share the same voice actor, sometimes they sound the same over the phone, you know?
I invited her for dinner?
Yes, you did. You wanted her to meet the family.
The family does seem to like her. I mean, how could you not love great conversation like this?
You want to know something cool? I threw up a lot in high school, so I don't get my period anymore.
Fantastic. Brian tries to mediate by cutting this visit short, but it looks like the damage is already done.
It's like she's f***ing 5.
But Brian won't let that get him down, so he tries to mingle with Jillian's friends, which sounds like trying to talk with brain-damaged aliens.
So then the valet pulls up, and I'm all, that is so not my car. But then it totally was.
Incredibly insightful conversations happening at this table, I tell you what. And of course, Stewie's listening in the wings to make fun of Brian.
Brian, why can't you just admit what's going on here?
Okay, fine. I'm gonna have to break it off.
Or you can just admit you're with your big dumb girlfriend for her body. It's not rocket science, Brian. Jillian probably doesn't even know what rocket science is. So Brian goes to break up, but whether she knows it or not, Jillian isn't making it very easy.
What is it?
I, just wanted to spend some time with you.
Oh yeah, he's folding like a freaking origami bird. Don't act like you could say no to her either. Yeah, so they actually stay with each other for a whole season. They do eventually separate after briefly moving in together, as Brian doesn't want to commit to a serious relationship. As we'll see later, he comes to regret this, but the relationship is unique in that it does last a few episodes, and Brian never really seems to move on past her. But Brian's relationship with Carolyn barely lasted when Cleveland came into play in Season 7, Episode 1. So it's Halloween and Lois is trying to set Brian up with a girl she knows.
You gotta get yourself back out there. Jane, this is Brian.
But I guess Lois didn't bother to ask anything about Jane, because why would Brian go for a woman like this?
I'm a victim of the liberal agenda. I'm a murdered fetus.
Ooh, spooky? Down on his luck, Brian decides to go to the bookstore where he runs into a cute girl named Carolyn while grabbing for the same book.
I don't think you want this book. It's all about atheism.
Oh, I know. I'm an atheist.
Really? So am I.
Wow, this is like every edgy fedora tipper's ideal meet cute.
If there is a God, send another copy. I guess that's our answer.
Somehow she's charmed by his cringy jokes and agrees to send him the book when she's done with it. And sometime later, the two meet up for dinner. I guess the restaurant only sells one thing, because it's the only thing people seem to be eating.
Can I interest you folks in some of our heavenly cheesecake?
No, but I'll have some of your there's no afterlife souffle.
Is being an atheist the only thing they talk about? We get it. You think you're smarter than everyone else.
Really enjoying your company.
Oh, me too, Brian.
So the two enjoy a couple more romantic dates, eventually ending up at Carolyn's apartment.
I had a really great time tonight, Brian.
Well, is there any reason it has to end?
Well, the angel on his shoulder might have something to say about it.
Don't do it, Brian.
Oh, it's just Stewie. But he is playing the role of an angel by trying to tell Brian to slow things down.
You always try too soon and end up blowing it.
So Brian continues to turn down Carolyn's advances at the behest of Stewie's owl blocking in this case.
Woohoo! Don't do it, Brian! Woohoo! Take it slow! Woohoo!
But Brian eventually can't take it any longer. He has got to get it on. However, when he gets to her apartment, he notices her car rocking. We all know what's going on there, right? Because I don't. Someone please tell me.
Oh my God! Carolyn? Cleveland?
Oh, now you want to call on God? Seems like a scummy thing for Cleveland to do, but apparently Carolyn didn't even tell him about Brian.
I'm not his girlfriend.
Carolyn, what are you talking about? We've been dating for 3 weeks.
You know the rules, Brian. Relationships don't start until conception. That's what they say, right?
I just figured if I showed a little restraint, you'd respect me.
I do.
As do I.
Well, looks like nice guys finish last yet again. We're about to see a Brian incel arc, aren't we? So Stewie tries to cheer Brian up by taking him to a bakery, but unfortunately there's no escaping Cleveland. Carolyn? I'll workshop the ship names.
Wait. Oh! And boom goes the dynamite.
But nothing takes your mind off heartbreak like sharing a drink with a baby at the bar and watching the ball game.
There appears to be an interracial couple making love on second base.
Yeah, but that could be anyone.
Oh! And boom goes the dynamite.
Probably sensing some hostility, Cleveland goes to smooth things over with Brian.
I guess it's okay. These are passing flings, nothing to get upset about.
Oh, it's passing all right. Passing right on through to the next level.
Good, because we're gonna elope in Hawaii tomorrow night.
But it may not just be Brian who has something to say about that.
I want us to be together again as a family, and I promise I'll never betray you again.
Dang, Cleveland, I didn't know you could pull that easily. But Cleveland seems to be in love with Carolyn now, so he lets Loretta down gently.
And as much as I still have a great deal of love for you, our time is over.
A very mature response. Hopefully Carolyn and Cleveland will have a long, happy life together.
Oh my God, Carolyn? Quagmire?
Cleveland, you either gotta get a better taste in women or just kill Quagmire at this point. And Brian tried to kill the memory of Jillian by dating actress Lauren Conrad later that season in episode 14, though she turned out to be even smarter than him. So yeah, Brian's old fling is getting married and everyone's invited. Well, almost everyone.
She invited everybody except me? What the hell? We dated for 6 months.
Yeah, but let's be real, Brian definitely seems like one of those I object wedding guests. He'll probably think it makes him look like such a romantic when really it makes him look like a massive tool. But Brian is totally cool about it. If he weren't, would he be getting drunk alone at a bar?
Hey, Blondie, you want to get together with my dogwood?
It's one thing to make a bad pickup line, but it's another to not even get the reference right.
You remind me of my stepdad.
Yeah, maybe it'd be best for everyone if you just kept that little tidbit to yourself. Anyway, after a naughty night together, Brian wakes up and finally realizes the girl he's with.
Oh my God, you're Lauren Conrad.
Yeah?
From the hills.
Wow, I'm sure that'd be a big deal if it was still 2006. So Brian decides to dip out before the paparazzi show up, but is caught by someone way worse.
Brian, is that you? Is that Lauren? My God, I was shopping for hats.
Brian does his best to keep this under wraps, but you know what a gossip Stewie is.
Did you stay in town or did you head for the hills?
Ha!
What's the big deal? Isn't it cool that Brian's dating a huge television icon, someone who's on TV?
She's such an idiot, Brian. She's such an idiot!
So, Brian's usual type? Brian decides to let her down easy at her mansion, though he finds she may be more cultured than she lets on.
I find Aristophanes' quasi-satirical origin myth regarding the 3 genders both fantastic and serious.
And I know at least 5 of those words.
This doesn't make any sense. If you're so smart, why do you hide it?
Come on, Brian. You know America doesn't like smart people.
Truer words have never been spoken. Well, this certainly changes things as Brian is eager to show off his intelligent girlfriend.
There was a special exhibition of rare Monet paintings and...
Manet, honey.
What?
It was actually the Manet exhibit, not Monet.
But here's the thing, Brian needs to be the smartest one in the relationship, otherwise he just looks like a fraud, which, he is.
You're so cute when you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, wait a minute, what the hell does that mean? Are you saying I'm not smart?
So yeah, it turns out Lauren isn't with Brian for his brain, but because she finds him cute. Geez, sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I can't date someone who's smarter than I am. I feel like Jillian.
Oh.
And there it is. Brian loves the intellectual superiority he felt while with Jillian. It seems like he still has feelings for her, but it's too bad about that whole getting married thing, huh? Well, the wedding's here, so it looks like Brian's out of time. All they gotta do is say their I do's and...
Wait!
See, what did I tell you? Called it from the beginning.
Jillian, I'm in love with you. I want you. No, I need you. With all my heart and soul.
Despite his impassioned plea of love, Jillian seems to have made up her mind.
I mean, I thought you were my soul train, but you didn't want me.
Soulmate.
Soul food?
Well, he lost out on Jillian, but maybe he could still make things work with Conrad?
She's never gonna speak to me again. I gave her worms.
That's Brian Griffin for you. Too smart for a bimbo, too dumb for a genius. And speaking of Brian being dumb, look no further than his relationship with Rita, where he cheated on her and called off their engagement because she's old in Season 8, Episode 4. But before he meets Rita, he first meets her daughter during a fender bender.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry. I wasn't really looking where I was going.
Weren't you parked? Anyway, Brian wastes little time and asks her out for dinner. She says yes, but she's probably concussed after that, so she might not be in the right state of mind. But when Brian goes to pick her up, she's greeted by her mom Rita, who has some unfortunate news.
Unfortunately, she left for dinner with another guy about half an hour ago.
What? We had a date!
The whiplash probably wore off and she thought, do I want to go to dinner with the guy who hit me with his car?
If it's any consolation, I would never have stood you up.
Well, that got the tail wagging. Looks like it's time to pivot.
I still have a reservation.
Well, I don't have plans.
Well, terrific.
The two actually go on a few dates and Rita ends up spending the night. Just gotta get that pesky baby out of the way. He'll be fine. The next morning, Brian tries to sneak Rita out of the house but runs into Lois. But when Rita goes to wait in the car, Lois lets her feelings be heard.
What do you think? What?
What do I think? She's 100!
Lois, you're like 40-something. I don't want to hear it. Keep laughing like that and you'll wrinkle your skin, Crypt Keeper.
How old is she, Brian?
What difference does it make? Age has nothing to do with anything.
Not so fast, Brian. You could be walking into a gold mine of sweet, sweet Social Security checks. So Rita joins the Griffins for dinner, which turns out to just be a sting operation to find out her age.
Hey, you know what we haven't done for a while? Go around the table and everybody says what year they were born.
Nice, Peter. You want to try something a bit more subtle?
How old are you? How old are you?
50! Okay, I'm 50! Happy now!
Well, not really, if you're just gonna cry like that.
There is nothing wrong with me dating Rita. She's beautiful, she's a charming woman, and I love her.
So Brian rushes off to Rita to console her, and damn what his family says, Brian wants to prove how much he loves her.
Will you marry me?
What did you just say?
Come on, you're only 50, you heard me. Will you marry me?
Not to get too ahead of myself, but Brian sure does like to propose, doesn't he? And never with a ring, either. Now, wedding rings are expensive, and I don't want to shame him, but how about a ring pop? You know, something at least. Anyway, the two move in together, and while Brian doesn't care how old Rita is, he might want to start remembering he's basically dating someone made of glass.
Oh!
Was that your boob?
No! I think I broke my hip.
So now that she's injured, Brian gets to play nurse.
They warned me these blue ones were gonna make me constipated. Right they were.
Okay.
Hey, if you can't talk about pooping in front of your significant other, they ain't the one. But Brian's looking to blow off steam, so he turns to Old Reliable. No, not Rita, drinking alone at a bar. Inside, he's given the deal of a lifetime he just can't pass up.
You want to have sex in the bathroom?
Oh gosh, what a treat. Yes, I would like that.
For a guy who proposes quite a bit, he sure doesn't get you're supposed to stop doing that afterward. Brian returns home and thankfully admits to what he did.
I have a confession to make. I met a girl, I had a couple of drinks, and I slept with her.
But the silver lining is it made Brian realize how much he loves Rita. Really? Most people don't have to break the hearts of their loved ones to figure that out. So Rita calls it off with him, leaving Brian to go back to dating in his age range. But just for fun, let's do the math. Brian's about 8 in this episode, which makes him 56 in dog years, which means he's technically older than Rita. That's a bit easier to swallow than all these women dating an 8-year-old. But that doesn't seem to be an issue for actress Cheryl Tiegs, who Brian briefly dates despite Quagmire in the 14th episode of season 9. So in case you didn't know, Cheryl Tiegs is Quagmire's one true love.
That's why I keep trying to figure out how to bring you back into my life. so we can make it work.
They used to date, but Quagmire blew it big time and's been chasing her ever since. He's Captain Ahab and she's Moby Dick. Giggity? Yeah, sure, giggity.
Someday we'll make it right.
So since Brian is looking to get back at him for giving him bad dating advice in the class he runs, he decided to make a little call to Hollywood.
What? Are you... Huh? Cheryl?
Hi, Glenn.
How did Brian make that happen? Maybe he finally gave Lauren Conrad a call after the worms.
I was in the neighborhood and I thought I'd just drop by and say hi. My new boyfriend, I guess, knows you and told me where you live.
Looks like the stars have aligned. Wait, boyfriend?
Hey, Cheryl, get your fat ass over here before I dump you.
He's so bossy, I love it.
Well, I guess Quagmire's dating mantra of be a jerk actually could have won her over, and Brian just swooped in and snatched her up like a bird. Oh, and speaking of birds. But the relationship is fairly short-lived as Quagmire decides to enact his own breed of revenge.
Oh, hey guys! Fancy me running into you here!
Yeah, what a coincidence running into them at a restaurant that roughly translates to the stupid fool in French. Wonder who that little secret applies to.
Since you guys are already here, I'd like to treat the four of us to dinner.
Hey, it's hard to pass up free food, but Brian's hit with a blast from the past when he sees Quagmire's date.
Jillian?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Aw, glad to see her getting back out there after her husband was brutally murdered.
Well, I guess you guys have gotten pretty close, huh? Did Quagmire ever tell you he was obese as a child?
Yeah, they insult each other for quite a bit until one of them cuts too deep.
Does Jillian know you're half Polish, Mr. Quagglecheck?
You son of a bitch!
And with that childish outburst, Cheryl gives up on both of the boys. It's clear that after all this time, Brian still has feelings for Jillian, willing to throw away any new potential relationship when she enters the picture. But let's be real, like Brian says later, he probably would have messed it up eventually. But what's really messed up is Brian dating a blind girl named Kate while pretending he's not a dog in season 10, episode 11. So the pair first meet at the Clam during one of Quagmire's latest perverted schemes.
Welcome to Disabled Ladies Night.
Is it still admirable even if this is clearly done with dirty thoughts in mind? What the hell, I'll let him have this one. Brian notices an unassuming girl at the bar and decides to have his pick of the litter.
Hey, would you like to go out sometime?
Wow, that was fast.
Of course it was. He's only got like 5 more years left. He's got to move. So she agrees to the date, but when she pulls out a stick, he realizes it's not for playing fetch.
Oh, my God,
Hey, check out Brian with a blind chick.
Despite that surprise, the two still seem to have a nice date, which no personal biases or handicaps could possibly ruin.
Our stupid neighbor's dog barks 24/7. God, I hate dogs.
Honestly, that'd be a red flag whether or not Brian was a dog. How could you not love those cute little guys? Stewie suggests Brian may be getting played to be her seeing eye dog, but Brian is quick to quell that.
No, actually, she doesn't want a seeing eye dog. She hates dogs.
What?
And might I add, huh? So you're just not gonna touch her for a while and then break the news to her eventually? Not really helping dogs not look like dirty, dirty liars there. To make matters even more stupid, he takes advantage of her blindness to make him look, sound more amazing than he is.
Now give me your purse, dollface. Hey, you get your hands off that. I don't care how many of you there are, you're not taking this purse.
You ever hear a criminal talk like that? I guess they got attacked by the thugs from the Batman Arkham games.
It's the freaking man!
But after several dates of no touching, Kate is starting to get suspicious.
I'm beginning to feel like you're not attracted to me or something.
Before Brian can come up with a good enough excuse, Kate says F it and plants a big kiss on Brian.
Brian, you never told me you had a beard. I love beards.
Just gonna ignore the big wet dog nose then? You see what you want to see, I guess. Or feel what you want to feel? Does that work here?
Brian, would you be cool with meeting my parents? They're in town this weekend and I thought we could all have dinner.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Blindness is genetic, right?
If you're asking if they can see, yes.
Ah, man, it's too bad human Brian had to get hit by that car. So to get around that little hiccup, Brian decides to go all Invisible Man when meeting the folks.
I'm Brian's nurse. He's had a little accident, I'm afraid.
You just know Stewie was overjoyed to wear that nurse outfit.
What happened is this one's a hero is what happened. Rescued 2 children from a burning building.
And he's just so humble that you probably won't hear about it anywhere on the news. Funny that. But all this attention is really making that tail wag. He's just too good a boy.
What's that thumping noise?
It's your tail. Stop wagging your tail.
I can't help it. Do something.
Cut it off? Sure thing, bud. Eventually, the disguise comes undone and Brian is forced to come clean.
Yes, okay? There's a dog in here. I'm a dog.
But the real kicker is that Kate probably could have forgiven him for being a dog, but can't forgive him for being a liar.
You screwed up, Brian. And now you're gonna have to watch me walk out that door.
I shouldn't laugh, but come on. Oh, he really screwed up with that whole song and dance. It's too bad there's no room for a second chance.
Hey, it's Noah from J-Date.
Oh my god, hi!
I guess the takeaway Brian got from this is that if you're caught lying, just keep lying. But Brian isn't just a liar, he's also a neglectful friend, as proven when he tried to date Stewie's abusive preschool teacher, Miss Emily, just 3 episodes later. So Brian first clues into what may be happening when picking Stewie up from daycare, seeing him covered in paint.
Is it normal that Miss Emily tied us all to the sink while she went out to return a birthday present?
No, but it's probably better than running a preschool fight club. That is a real thing, by the way.
You know, Stewie, maybe I should come by tomorrow and check things out. That teacher sounds really irresponsible.
So Brian does just that, but all is forgiven when he makes a reasonable discovery. She's an attractive woman.
Excuse me, are you Miss Emily?
Yeah, hi. Who are you?
Brian.
And just like that, all concerns are thrown out the window. So Brian continues to drop by and goes to bat for this clearly neglectful woman he barely knows.
She's got a lot on her plate. She's got school, she's got work.
This is her work!
Despite all the concerning imagery right in front of him, all he wants is a date.
Miss Emily and I have a connection, which is totally unexpected.
Let the record stand that just because a woman talks to you and makes eye contact with you does not mean you two have a connection. I feel like a lot of problems in this world could be solved if some people accepted that. Things get so bad that Stewie's forced to escape after Miss Emily dislocates his arm. Kinda looks like he's morphing into one of those wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men.
Are you sure you didn't just sleep on it, Funny?
Does this look like I slept on it, Funny?
Stewie threatens to tell Lois, but Brian silences him until he can get in bed with Miss Emily. He even takes care of that pesky arm, you know, after 10 or 15 tries to shove it back into place.
I'm not saying I like pain, but I'm not saying I don't like it either.
So Brian gets all excited for his date with Miss Emily, but he makes a shocking discovery, even worse than child neglect.
Wow, you look great. You ready to go?
Yeah, 1 sec. I'm leaving, honey.
Okay, babe, have fun.
Well, that changes things.
What you did to these kids? There is a special place in hell for people like you.
So you can excuse the child endangerment, but not the boyfriend? Glad to see you have your morals in the right place, Brian. And Brian continued to have questionable morals when he pretended to be a war vet's dog so he could have an affair with his wife Tori in season 14, episode 8. So Brian and Tori meet at a car wash, and yeah, she checks all the boxes for him. Young, blonde, beautiful, far too young for him.
I'm Tori. I got hit by a car in high school, so I don't have to work.
And she's dumb? Brian really found his holy grail here. The two end up sleeping together because of course they do. However, Tori failed to mention one teeny tiny thing.
Oh crap, my husband's home early.
Wait a minute, you're married? And he's here? Now?
Must have slipped her mind, or whatever you call that thing in her head.
What the hell is going on here? What is this?
In a brief moment of clarity, Brian actually remembers he's a dog. Tori lies and says that she adopted him, which seems good enough for her husband.
As long as he thinks you're our new pet, we can keep fooling around behind his back.
Yeah, because if there's one kind of guy you want to screw over, it's a Navy SEAL, especially the one who killed Osama bin Laden. But Brian agrees because, well, look at the last 13 sections I've covered. But Brian doesn't like to share, so he decides to dip when Tori and her husband start to get it on.
You know what? Screw this. I'm out of here.
Though he doesn't get very far. A little thing called karma has different plans for him.
Where do you think you're going? You're my dog. You're not going anywhere.
So Vic chains him up in the backyard, keen on keeping him around to help catch whoever his wife's cheating on him with. Honestly, the worst crime is the cringy voicemails left for her.
Hey, Tori, it's Brian. I'm getting the Chinese food for us. I think I'm gonna order some me-like bang ho.
Surely you'd be willing to help Vic catch this cheater and racist, wouldn't you, Brian? And Tori's no help, deciding to ditch Brian until her husband's calmed down.
Wow, shocker. Your gross hookup from the car wash ended poorly?
Honestly, Brian doesn't really deserve Stewie's help after those shenanigans he pulled at the daycare, but Stewie's much more of a stand-up guy than Brian. So Stewie enlists Chris to help try to get Brian back.
I'm afraid there's been a mistake. I believe you found our dog, and we need to take him home.
But Vic isn't budging, so they utilize someone whose words a Navy SEAL can't refuse.
Well, we figured you'd say no to us, but not to Vice President Joe Biden.
Huh, Vice President. If we only knew what awaited us all the way back in 2015. So this convinces Vic to give Brian back, and I'd like to say that Brian learned a lesson, but that would make me a liar, so I won't. And if you thought that was bad, it doesn't compare to when Brian tried to date Meg's high school friend Patty a few episodes later. So Brian gets roped into driving Meg and her friends to field hockey practice. Despite being annoyed by her friends, he agrees just to get them out of the house. After he drops them off, he notices someone left the bag in the car and goes to return it, just walking right into the girls' locker room. Hey, I don't see a sign on the door. Before he can leave, he becomes enamored by a girl getting changed, which is presented just as creepily as you'd expect.
Wow.
To make matters worse, it's one of Meg's friends. But don't think that's gonna stop Brian from being a full-on degenerate.
Holy crap, that was Patty! She's got a smoking hot body!
Again, I must reiterate that he's talking about a kid, and no, the he's 10 years old defense isn't gonna work here. Brian tries to bro out about it with Stewie, who also needs to remind him.
She's in high school.
Oh, he knows, but I think that only makes it better for him. So to get closer to Patty, Brian finds ways to insert himself into the friend group to impress her.
I actually made one too many Build-A-Bears for the cancer kids. If only I could build a cure.
Oh, shut up. Patty seems to fall for his BS, but Meg immediately realizes what's happening.
You're hitting on Patty and it's gross. She's 18. Stop it.
Me?
Yeah, you. Also, quick sidebar, but whatever happened to Beth? You know, the blonde that used to be in Meg's friend group. Did she die or something? Haven't seen her since like season 6. But naturally, he doesn't listen and goes to take Patty on a date anyway.
I'm here to pick up Patty. We're going to see a movie called Brittany Finds a Lump.
Already predicting it, 5 Oscar nominations. Doesn't look like Patty's cluing in, possibly blinded by all of Brian's swag. Or riz, is that the current word? I can't keep up with these anymore. Later, the two longingly gaze up at the stars together.
Hey, I wonder if any of those stars are wishing on us, huh?
You're so deep.
Yeah, about as deep as a puddle. Thankfully, Meg arrives before anything can get too weird.
You don't have to do this, Patty. Brian's just taking advantage of you.
Patty's confused since she usually doesn't get hit on, but Meg explains Brian only wants her for her body and nothing else. For how much they hate each other, he and Quagmire have a lot in common. So Patty and Meg leave Brian high and dry without even the stars on his side.
Bummer. He's never gonna get to hit that.
I know. That's exactly what I wished for.
So even the universe is trying to work against Brian? Well, he does bring it on himself. But one time, Brian even brought on a bullet to the foot when he ran away with Bonnie Swanson in his 3rd relationship of season 14. But before the bullet, we see Brian finding Bonnie crying during her 46th birthday party. As I get older, I find myself crying at every birthday of mine too. One step closer to the grave.
I'm 46, and all I've ever done is take care of Joe.
Brian does his best to comfort her, even giving her a little scratch behind the ear. Hey, dogs seem to like it, so why not give it a try?
You're a good girl. You're gonna be okay.
But unlike when you scratch behind a dog's ear, it's immediately followed by a passionate kiss.
I can't believe I just kissed my friend's wife.
At this point, Brian, the more shocking thing you could have done is not kiss her. The two agree to keep that moment under wraps. The less Joe knows, the better.
The other night was great, but it was a mistake.
You're right.
Oh man, what?
But Brian did tell Peter about it, so as long as Joe doesn't pick that very specific thing to act out during charades, I think we're good.
Wait, I know it. The other night at your party, Brian kissed Bonnie.
The correct answer was sailboat, but good guess, Peter. So Brian tries to apologize to Joe, who seems forgiving, though his actions tell a different story.
Well, I hope your day gets better, Brian, but I wouldn't count on it.
After Joe gets Brian's car towed and drugs him to put him in booties, the neighbors decide to hold an intervention to put this thing to bed. Hopefully before Brian and Bonnie put themselves to bed, if you know what I'm saying.
I'm not the guy who violated the sanctity of someone else's marriage.
Well, you make a good point, Joe. And you're right, this is Brian.
Yeah, I mean, the dog's reputation as a homewrecker is pretty well documented at this point.
Joe, you're out of control. Even though Brian's been trying to do my wife for years, and on some level I hate him for it.
Fair point, but cheating's like tango, it takes two. What about Bonnie?
But I think we're losing sight of the point that Bonnie's a weird slut who's always letting you know she's open for business.
Dang, kind of feels like you've been holding on to that one for a while, huh, Quagmire?
Okay, so we're all in agreement. Bonnie and Brian are terrible people.
One seems far worse than the other, but sure, let's just go with that. While Brian defends Bonnie, acting like the only one who really cares for her.
They don't get us, Bonnie. And you deserve better than this. We both do. You know what? Let's get out of here.
So the two go on the run together. Clearly their love is operating on another level, even if I'm struggling to remember if they've ever even talked to each other before this episode.
So, do you have like a credit card?
Nope. And no cash either.
That's alright, love don't cost a thing, baby. Though a place to stay, food, and gas certainly do. So to make some cash, the two lovebirds start working at a diner. Almost immediately, the honeymoon phase begins to wear off.
And stop breathing through your mouth, it's really annoying.
I'm panting, that's how I sweat, you dumb bitch.
But Joe eventually manages to track them down through the power of love.
Plus Dirtbag here has a chip in his ear.
Yeah, but it was mostly love. Bonnie and Joe reconcile, and of course, Brian tries to take credit for bringing them closer.
I guess just call me Cupid, huh? You're welcome.
Ow! damn it!
See, I told you we'd get a foot shot. He should be lucky it wasn't a shot to the head. But Brian isn't afraid to shoot his own shot, traveling all the way to India to find a technical support agent he has a crush on in the 20th episode of season 14. So Brian immediately becomes infatuated with the tech support agent Padma when he hears her voice. Romantic or pathetic? I'll let you be the judge.
Amazing. 1 second of a stranger's voice on a phone and you've got full Bollywood.
The two start to flirt, and Brian divulges he's a writer.
Oh, you are a writer? Are you famous?
By choice, no.
Yeah, and by everyone else in the world's choice too. Brian and Padma continue to talk, but Brian has to come clean about something.
My computer wasn't actually broken this time. I just wanted to talk to you again.
I like talking to you too, Brian.
Yeah, I had a tech support person tell me that too, and then they asked me to buy a bunch of iTunes gift cards. That's how I could tell they were the one.
I know it's crazy, but I honestly feel a connection to this woman. More than I have to anyone in a long time.
And by long time, he means about 4 episodes. After spending hours on the phone with Padma, Brian comes to a totally irrational decision.
Stewie, I'm going to India.
This dog sure does travel a lot for someone without a job. So Brian and Stewie manage to locate where Padma works, but finding her may be a bit of an issue.
Stand on your desk.
Brian?
Padma, just do it.
And there she... Oh.
Are you Padma?
No, I am Ranita. There is a python in my cube.
Oh, there she is.
I am touched you came all this way to see me.
I'm so glad I did. You're even more beautiful than I imagined.
And thank God she's beautiful, because I know Brian would be regretting that plane ticket if she weren't. Padma invites the two to a party at her parents' home, but later they find out it's an engagement party.
So who's getting married?
I am.
What?
Yeah, so it looks like Padma has one of those arranged engagements lined up for her, but that doesn't mean she has to accept.
His name is Brian Griffin, and my heart belongs to him.
Mazel tov, or the opposite, since there's no wedding now. Vatlazam. Of course, this puts Padma's father out of a lot of money, so Brian offers to pay back everything he lost. But as we discussed, Brian has no job, no prospects, no nothing.
He's holding on to an Applebee's gift card with $1.62 on it.
So to make all that money, Brian decides to go on India's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Here's the thing about that show though, you have to actually be smart to win it.
D, Jiminy Cricket, final answer.
And just like that, he's done. You, sir, are no Slumdog Millionaire. Great movie, by the way. But thankfully, Padma's father's just decided to give away his younger daughter for marriage instead. So this frees up Padma, but it looks like she's having second thoughts now.
I am deeply touched that you came all this way to find me. But the truth is, you and I have very little in common.
So Padma thanks him for his time, but leaves knowing they just aren't right for each other. Well, that's a kick to the tennis balls, isn't it?
You know what? It's about the journey, not the destination.
No, it's not. This sucked and you failed.
And another relationship Brian failed to secure was with Ellie, another dog he tried to date for a change in season 16, episode 10. Brian is alone on Valentine's Day, so he celebrates like he does every holiday, and also on regular days, with heavy drinking.
Well, Brian, if you're stuck being a single loser, you might as well just embrace it.
Yeah, but you eating chocolate is like a human eating poison. But hey, I'm sure there's someone out there doing that too. I had to see it, so you do too. But luckily, Brian's able to get his stomach pumped before it's too late, and on his way out, he meets the only other talking dog in town that isn't Vinny or new Brian.
Hey, I'm Brian. Shake.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ellie.
It really took you 17 years since Seabreeze to be attracted to another dog, huh? Is Family Guy pushing some weird human and dog relations agenda or something? So Brian and Ellie go on a date, and we see that when Brian's asked to produce one intelligent thought unprovoked, he looks like a big dummy.
You know, I really like that Jackson Pollock.
It's pronounced Pollock.
Ellie assures him he doesn't have to try so hard, but that might be difficult as Brian is a notorious tryhard if I've ever seen one.
Truth is, I haven't felt this way with anyone in a long time.
Well, that's all well and good, but Ellie has places to be. Turns out she's a show dog.
Oh, you're a show dog? No wonder you have such a perfectly coiffedness.
Like I said before, dog dating is weird. Imagine throwing out that compliment on the third date. But the two rendezvous on another date, though Brian gets a bit too eager.
Oh, no, wait. Don't do that.
It's the dog breath, isn't it? Actually, it turns out her owner plans to have her breed with whoever wins the dog show. Kinda like an arranged dog wedding.
I have to have sex with whichever male dog wins, whoever that ends up being.
Brian's gonna enter the dog show, isn't he?
Stewie, we're entering a dog show.
Yeah, I think Stevie Wonder could have seen that coming. Well, with Stewie in tow, Brian enters the dog show to win the right to dog bone Ellie. I know he's a dog, but seeing Brian walk on all fours still creeps me out.
Most of these dogs have been training since birth. Are you sure you're ready for this?
Oh yeah, he's ready. He's like every guy lying on a couch watching football who thinks they could have done it better than the players. And so the show begins with Brian steadily making his way up the rankings through ventriloquism, herding, and balloon animals. Not to be dramatic, but I'd soil myself if I saw a dog make a balloon animal IRL.
And our winner in the male division is Brian Griffin!
But no time to celebrate because it's time to get it on in the least sexy way possible.
This is it? It's happening right here? Right now?
That's right, and nothing gets someone into the mood like blinding fluorescent lighting. You are going to see everything.
Offering manual assistance. Commencing union.
Okay, thanks, man, but I got this.
Yeah, you don't though. So they decide to bring in second place instead, Brian says goodbye, and we had to see it all through Ellie's point of view. Though according to Inside Family Guy and Illustrated History, it could have been much worse.
I promised to name one of the puppies after you.
Actually, if I had to witness that, I'd rather never think about this moment ever again. But maybe dog dating isn't for him. We're in the future after all, so Brian actually tries his hand at dating an Alexa-like robot named Brandy in the 16th episode of season 17. So Peter brings home the device so they can talk to it, but Brian is less than enthused.
This device is a perfect example of how we continue to become more inept due to our dependency upon machines.
Ask him to define any of those words, he said, and I bet you he can't do it. So things start a bit rocky, especially when Brandy hears Brian bombing asking a girl out.
God, why am I such a loser?
Possible reasons for being a loser. Bad breath.
She essentially tears him a new one, but he actually starts to turn around on her.
Brandy, what is love?
John Lennon said love is the answer.
Cool, that's just like his songs. Inane bullcrap. Yeah, that's right, I went there. Brian even goes so far as to take her to the movies with him.
I like you, Brandy.
I like you too.
Okay, I know everyone's thinking it, so I'm just gonna say it. How do they do stuff? But Brandy convinces Brian to buy a bunch of stuff off Amazon, so much so that debt collectors come to take it all away. Before Brandy is hauled off, she pours her heart out to Brian.
The Grand Canyon spans 277 miles.
I'm gonna miss you too, Brandy.
Yeah, this was a short-lived one, but I figured it was worth mentioning since Brian trying to date a robot is definitely weird. But it isn't the only time he tried to do that, as we'll see in just a bit. But before then, let's look at the first episode of season 17 to find the only woman Brian is actually married, Jess, who was diagnosed with cancer. So Brian hits the club to try to find the love of his life. That's usually where you find those, right? But of course, he strikes out with everybody, even the bartender. He wasn't even hitting on him.
Another bourbon, please.
Shut up, Nick.
What? Why do I come here?
But he does manage to talk with a girl at the bar named Jess, who also thinks this place sucks.
Yes, everything about it is awful. The people, the music. If you can call it music.
Wow, they're both grumpy and bitter. Maybe this is a match made in heaven. After all, life is too short. Very short for some.
I've been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Oh, you know, cancer?
But that doesn't deter Brian from going back to her place and getting it on. As it turns out, she has a whole list of sexy stuff she wants to do before she dies. I guess Brian will bite the bullet and help her out with that.
Jess, I would like to help you cross off every single item on this list.
What a brave and noble guy you are, Brian. So the two go through that entire list, scarring everyone who witnesses them in the process. What are they gonna do, arrest someone with cancer? Yeah, probably actually. But eventually, that pesky cancer comes a knock-in and Jess is hit with the devastating news.
You've got approximately 2 weeks left to live.
Jess is obviously heartbroken about never getting to be a mom or wife, but Brian feels compelled to help with one of those.
It would be my honor if you spent the rest of your life as my bride.
I want to believe this is Brian being genuine, but come on, it's a 2-week commitment. It'll last about as long as the average celebrity marriage. At least they'll beat Britney Spears, who was only married for 55 hours. And surprisingly, the wedding ceremony goes off without a hitch. No jealous exes, no cold feet, and no last-minute output.
Everyone, your attention, please.
Oh, come on, this better be good.
Jess is going to live.
I guess Brian was really looking forward to the till death do us part portion of their marriage. To celebrate, Jess starts to go hard on the eating now that she's not dying.
Ah, shrimp. It's like I'm a baby bird.
Well, that's gross. I bet Brian didn't realize he was marrying Peter. So the two move in together in that crummy little apartment Brian lived in briefly in the previous season. Unfortunately, that means moving in with all of Jess's cats, and as we previously learned, her farts. But hey, that's okay. Brian totally married her out of love and not to look like a selfless angel to everyone in town, right? Oh man, that was hard to say with a straight face.
I've got to get out of this. You were right all along, okay? I'm not ready to be married. I gotta get a divorce.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over well, especially with how people believe his love is what saved her.
If you ever take that love away from Jess, I hope people walk right up to you on the street and punch you in the junk.
Thank goodness for closed captioning, because good God. But maybe Brian won't have to break up with her. Maybe God, the devil, Santa Claus, and all other deities are looking out for him.
Wait, are you... Oh my God. Oh my God, are you choking?
Actually, I think the nachos were so good they left her speechless. Despite Brian's best efforts, it seems to be too late for Jess. Oh, that just stinks, don't it? So yeah, it looks like Jess kicks the bucket and Brian does his best to convince us he actually cares.
I would give anything if she were still here with me.
I'm okay!
Did they hold the funeral 10 minutes after she passed out? See, that's why I'm going with cremation. Jess and Brian last for one more episode, with Jess nearly getting Brian euthanized. But then she dies during a commercial break, so yeah, that's marriage for you. But who does Brian love more than anyone? Himself, of course, which led to a romantic relationship with a robot Brian in season 17, episode 12. So it's Brian's birthday, but it just serves as a reminder to him that he's 1 year closer to dying and he hasn't accomplished anything. Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
I just want my story to live on, even after I'm gone. You know, I always did want to write my autobiography.
Yeah, but usually you would have had to, done something to warrant that. Despite that, Stewie agrees to help Brian write it. But instead of writing it, Brian wants to focus on the more important things, like the title.
Barking up the right tree? Catch that? Or, are you there, dog? It's me, Brian.
But books are so last century. The real autobiography will be a living machine, and in this case, a robot copy of Brian.
Whoa, asohoy.
Yeah, that catchphrase never really caught on, did it?
It knows you and your mannerisms, and it will exist long after you're gone.
So this is how Brian will be remembered, as a wall-eyed, catchphrase-spitting abomination. Nice. So what kind of amazing memories will the robot record to honor Brian's legacy?
Can robots do cocaine? What? Nothing, I was just,
Truly a legacy we'll tell our grandchildren about. So after enough time, the robot begins to look and act more like Brian.
Have you read my book yet? I'm downloading it right now.
I'd be careful, that thing will fry your computer brain.
It's beautiful.
I think science has gone too far. No more science, we need to put a stop to science. And if you think Stewie isn't gonna find out, then you don't know Stewie.
You know he backs up his hard drive every night, right? Though I guess you were also backing up his hard drive last night, eh?
Brian admits to falling for himself and actually wants to try dating the robot. This is playing out like a really weird anime I saw online once. Not as graphic, but I'm still not happy about it. But once Brian gets alone with Brian starts to find out just how annoying Brian can be. Brian.
I do not laugh like that. Again, Brian, I'm you. I can't do it unless you've already done it.
Yeah, so essentially this robot is like holding up a mirror to Brian's life, and he does not like what he sees.
God, I'm such a jerk! I hate you! Which means I hate me.
And with those words, the robot shuts down, concluding the test Stewie had put in place.
Brian, you wanted to write your autobiography, and I needed to show you that no one wants to read your autobiography.
Not even Brian himself. Clever. Because while he's a good boy occasionally, Brian is still a self-absorbed douche, and that's probably why almost every relationship of his fails. But Brian has tried to fix past relationships, like with Ida Davis, the parent of his arch-nemesis in season 18, episode 2. So Brian and Ida's first interaction came right after Ida's transition. And how exactly did Quagmire take the news of the pair sleeping together? But the two actually end up running into each other at a hotel bar one night.
Brian, what are you doing here? I'm an alcoholic. Oh, right.
Brian decides to comfort her through one of Quagmire's embarrassing moments, and the two seem to hit it off again. Is he actually interested in her, or just using this as a chance to spite Quagmire? Let's find out.
You're so wise and kind. I think that's what originally drew me to you.
I forgot she also falls for his pseudo-intellectual BS. But as we've seen from some of these past entries, it hasn't exactly worked out for him.
Why do you always run yourself down? You're handsome, you're loyal.
You drink heavily, you're a huge phony, you're a hypocritical narcissist. Should we go on?
Ida, should we get a room? Absolutely.
I think I'm getting the appeal of hotel bars now. You can meet someone, have a few drinks, and don't have to leave to stay the night. It's like the mecca of bad decisions.
Well, I guess we'll pretend this never happened, and I'll see you in another 2 years.
But unlike last time, Brian is looking to make this a full-time thing.
Does that mean you're asking me out?
I guess it does.
So the two go on a few dates, but Brian still acts hesitant about the whole being seen in public thing.
It just seems like you're always taking me to out-of-the-way places to avoid being seen together.
What are you talking about? A trip to space far away from another human is a totally normal date. But Brian decides to correct this and make things official.
The fish is for me, and the chicken is for my girlfriend.
The couple makes it official to Brian's family, but there's one more unfortunate person they'll need a blessing from.
The only other person we have to tell about us is Glenn.
Oh God, I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah, better break out the bulletproof vest. As a reminder, Quagmire's last reaction to them sleeping together was, and I quote, "I'll blow your head off." So they decide to have Quagmire over for breakfast to try to warm him up to the whole situation.
That's great. That's just great, Brian. I am very excited for this unique breakfast.
That's right. Smile through the pain, Quagmire.
Brian thought you two could hang out this afternoon, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Quagmire, what do you say?
I think he'd rather rinse his mouth out with a shotgun blast, but he musters up the willpower to go along with it.
All right. I guess I can do that.
They try to coexist at a cookout over a friendly game of football, though things don't start out great when Quagmire's put on the kids' team.
I'm older than the adults. I'm older than all of you.
But the 61-year-old goes along with it anyway. They get ready to play, but Brian starts to do that new stepdad thing. You know, the thing where they make too much of an effort to be nice to win their way into their new child's heart.
Gonna need your help over here. They got a real All-American at QB.
God.
He even lets Quagmire win the game. Big fat quotation marks on the "lets," though.
Oh, no, I missed you by total accident.
Brian's complimented for being a great dad to Quagmire, but Glenn has had enough of this nonsense.
He's not my dad. I already have a dad, and it's my mom. All right, Brian? Stop trying to be my dad, you fraud.
Yeah, it must be tough having a dad that's like 40 years younger than you, especially one that's a dog, but everyone seems to ignore that part.
I can't take this anymore. It's either him or me.
Ooh, how soap opera of you, Quagmire. Only this time, we don't have to wait until the next episode to find out who she chooses.
I choose Brian.
Yes.
To talk to first.
So Ida decides to put her son first and break things off with Brian despite her admiration for him.
I'm sorry, Brian. I'll never forget what we had together.
I understand.
R.I.P. to Bri-Da, a relationship Quagmire probably can't wait to pee on the grave of, though Brian did try to put in the effort. And he actually makes a great effort with Holly from season 19, episode 11, who Brian tried to win over by bonding with her son Kyle. So while the family's out shoe shopping, Brian strikes up a conversation with the saleswoman, Holly. Gee, I wonder where this is gonna go.
Holly, are you free on Friday night?
Well, I don't know. Are you a shoe store murderer?
No.
Didn't sound too convincing to me, Brian. What are you hiding? But the two go on that date getting pretty drunk at a karaoke bar.
Do you mind if I kiss you?
Actually, I should chew some gum first. I had bologna for dinner.
Uh-oh, you found Brian's weakness. He can't resist a woman whose breath smells like an elementary school cafeteria. But when Brian goes to pick her up for another date, he finds her to be a bit shorter with a different haircut and also a young boy.
You must be the new jerk my mom is dating.
Oh, that's her son. That was gonna be my second guess.
I'm sorry I never told you I had a son. Some guys get scared off.
That's fine. Did you know Brian has a son? He probably can't remember his name, but he knows he's out there. I mean, he could be dead, but Brian knows for a fact that he had a son who was alive at some point. So Brian tries to bond with Kyle, though the kid doesn't want anything to do with him. I mean, if I found out I might be getting a dog stepdad, I'd be mad too.
Hey, you're one kid, and we're 4 kids, so we're gonna bully you.
That is how packs of children work. Learned about that on the Discovery Channel. Then comes the part where they rip apart the smaller one with their teeth. Okay, I might have been watching something on hyenas, actually.
What are you gonna do, baby? Cry?
Oh, maybe I wasn't too far off. Kyle really appreciates Brian standing up for him, and the two actually seem like they could be friends. But that relationship may not last because his and Holly's might already be over.
The truth is, I'd like to date other people.
But surprisingly, that isn't the downer Brian's thinking of.
If we break up, does that mean I won't get to see Kyle either?
Wow, you've come a long way from screaming at that kid in the Denny's, Brian. Now that's character growth. Stewie tries to comfort Brian, but he truly does miss Kyle the most.
We'd formed a real connection, and I sort of liked being a father figure to him.
Yeah, if only you had a son of your own you could have that relationship with. A son who may or may not be dead. I don't know. I'm not going to check if you're not.
If you miss Kyle that much, you should go find him.
Thanks. Maybe I will.
Maybe you should go around and tell people you're looking for a child. I'm sure that will go over beautifully. But when Brian shows up to support Kyle at Boy Scouts, her tune on him actually does seem to change.
Say, Brian, what are you doing Saturday night?
See, guys, if you do the right thing, eventually you will get rewarded. by babysitting your crush's son while she goes out on a date. You know what? Love might be dead. After seeing all of what Brian went through, I'm not sure love is real anymore. Unless there's a nice lady clam out there looking for a partner. And finally, Brian decides to have a brief fling with a carny named Amber in season 21, episode 9. So while Brian is at a fall carnival, he strikes up a conversation with a booth operator because it turns out they both have a consensual love for casual fooling around.
You, wouldn't maybe want to grab dinner sometime?
Nah, but I'll bang it in the porta potty.
Ew, don't you know what people do in those things? Well, I guess you do because you're about to partake. Brian's having a great time being a filthy degenerate with Amber. Every time I think I know this guy's type, he surprises me with something out of left field. At least this one's an actual person and not some kind of robot that we know of.
She's leaving town with the carnival in 3 days, Stewie. So it's sex, and then adios.
Seems like the perfect plan, and all it probably costs is contracting every STD known to man and animal. But in a surprising turn, Brian isn't the one who ends up wanting to break things off early.
We need to break up.
What? You're breaking up with me?
Whoa, dumped by a carny.
Amber actually realized they have nothing in common. That almost feels kinda backhanded, right? Like, she was leaving town soon anyway, but broke things off with them early regardless. Ouch. But Brian doesn't take the breakup well, devising a plan to get her back. Really though, we can all see what's going on.
I think that you can't stand that you got dumped by a carny, someone you feel is inferior to you.
Yep, hit the nail on the head. He always seems to have a superiority complex with his women, and when he's denied that, he can't accept it. It's like when a guy asks a woman out, gets rejected, and then says, "Oh, you're ugly anyway." Who are you trying to fool, you massive tool? So Brian goes to win her back, and surprisingly, she takes to the idea when Brian agrees to go on the road with her.
That's boss! Let's do it!
He's got her right where he wants her, now he can do the breaking up.
Amber, if you think for 1 second...
Oh my gosh, Uncle Earl, you gotta meet my new boyfriend, Brian.
Oh yeah, he definitely seems like one of those beat you to death if you break her heart kind of uncles. Well, better get packing, Brian. And you better subscribe to Sweaty Clams so you don't miss out on more Family Guy videos. Be sure to leave a like and check out more of our stuff by clicking on one of the videos on screen now.